Hey guys, what's up? It's Lainey, and today I'm starting my Smutathon reading vlog. This whole week we were just reading a bunch of smutty books and talking about it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be following my TBR. If you haven't watched that, I'll link it up above. It starts in an hour. I might start a little early because I will probably go to sleep right at midnight because I'm such a wuss. This whole weekend I have to clean my apartment. I have things to do. I gotta get my life organized because it's the new year. I thought I'm just gonna be reading as many audiobooks as I can this weekend for my TBR. So the first book that I'm starting with is Step Beast by Selena Kitt. I am using this for my new to you author because I've never read any of her works before. This is a stepbrother stepsister romance, so this is probably the one I'm most excited to read. But since I do like to be listening to something and reading something at the same time, I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get my out of my comfort zone out of my way. You guys know it's hard for me to pick out of my comfort zones, but I don't have a daddy kink. So I looked out for a super kinky daddy smut book. Riley told me to get Preacher Man right here. Yay, it's read for free. It's like 50 pages. I think I might read this before I go to bed. And then if I'm still kind of awake, I'll start Step Beast. So thanks, lady. I guess I'll read it now. I am low-key nervous to read this book because I'm just very apprehensive. I know I'm gonna be cringing for all 50 pages as I read this because I just don't really find the daddy kink all that sexy. Well, last night before I went to sleep, I finished Preacher Man by Jessa Kane. This one was interesting to say the least. So basically this guy comes to town, he builds a church, and he is a preacher, and like everybody in the town are like losing their minds over him because he's like such a great preacher, blah blah blah. This one girl, she's 18, she is gonna get baptized, and like the whole thing is like he's like, if he touches her, he doesn't know what he's gonna do because it's told in dual perspective. There's a lot of possession in this book because he's very clearly adamant about the fact that she is his and no one else can even look at her. Surprisingly, there wasn't as much smut as I thought there would be in 50 pages, and there was actually a decent-ish kind of plot. Like there was conflict towards the end that we were kind of building towards. The sex scenes were like okay. I thought they could have been a lot more smuttier, to be honest. The daddy stuff was kind of a lot. There is like the sex scene before they actually had sex that was the only way I can describe it was like a sex exorcism. I don't know. Everything I hated in romance was in this book, but I didn't hate the book, if that makes sense. Another thing is that Jessa Kane can write, so it was well written, and I think when a book is well written, I can forgive some of the things I don't like in it. I don't know what I would rate this book because I'm like hovering like, do I just rate it a 3? Because I wasn't like flipping the pages being like, what happens next, so it didn't like grip me in that kind of sense. But on the other hand, it wasn't a terrible book. I'm just neutral on this. Could have been worse, could have been better in my opinion. Finished that last night, and then I woke up earlier this morning and started Step Beast. I'm about a little bit past a few hours. I'm almost 50% through. So I'm listening to it quite quickly. This book has turned into a BDSM book, which I wasn't expecting when I was reading the back synopsis. So that was kind of like a pleasant surprise because I kind of was starting to dig like that whole aspect in this story because the stepbrother works as a dom in a sex club. He doesn't want her, and he doesn't want her in his business, but she wants to try to get his attention and make him jealous. So she decides to enter as like training as a sub. And I was like really into that. But the only complaint I have about this book is I don't think there's enough good tension between like the whole forbidden aspect of the stepbrother and the stepsister. They just kind of seem like exes to me. And like my favorite part of the stepbrother step-sibling trope is like the tension and the forbidden aspect of it, and I just don't have that in this book. I think one of the things is that like they don't really play it up, and I want it to be played up a little bit more. Plus like his dad, so her stepdad, is dead, but he still has a relationship with his stepmother, which is her mother. But she doesn't even call her mother mom. She calls her like her first name. So it's like all of like the familial tension that is usually involved in like a step sibling romance is like gone. So they honestly seem like exes. But like that's my only complaint. I wish that trope was just done better. But overall, like I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to keep reading. I'm curious what this secret is. I felt like the beginning, there weren't enough seeds planted in the beginning for some of the few things that were revealed later on. Specifically, I don't think this is a spoiler, but they have history, which is why I kind of consider them kind of like just exes. He does weird things to her in the beginning where I was like, why isn't she reacting more to this if this is like their first interaction together, like in a more sexual sense? And there was none of that, so I was like kind of confused. And then like a few chapters later, it's pretty much mentioned that they had like a summer fuck fest basically. I'm just gonna lay here. I know I should be cleaning right now because my apartment is a mess, but I just want to like play a game and listen to more of this book. So I have a pretty good idea of what I'm gonna write a book when I'm about halfway through. Step Beast was at a solid 4.5 for me, and I was just gonna take off for the fact that I didn't think the stepbrother trope was as good as I wanted it to be. But then the secret, the goddamn secret that this bitch has been harboring, and I was just like, no, I didn't like it. And I don't feel like I should say it because it's gonna spoil the whole book, but I was just not excited about it. I invested all this time for something that disappointed me so much. I'm moving on. I was upset. I didn't deserve that. So now I'm gonna be reading The Boyfriend Bargain by Ilsa Madden-Mills. It's a hockey romance, and I feel like pretty good about this. I decided to go with the hockey romance next because hockey romances I feel like are my comfort zone. They're the ones that I always know I'm gonna have a good time reading, and I needed that after the disappointment that was Step Beast. Started the first chapter, and it's dual POV, which I'm really happy with, and I really loved the first chapter. Usually with most of the hockey stars that I read, they're always like really cocky and arrogant and kind of like untouchable. I mean, that's still true with this one, but the main character, Zach, this book opens with him at a game and he has a panic attack, and I felt like my heart was like racing when I was reading this because I could just like, I've never had a panic attack like that, but like I have anxiety, so I totally like felt that. Looking forward to some really great banter and a lot of tension. That's what I need. I need that. Okay, so I'm calling it for the night because I've been reading literally all day, but I'm about 60% into Boyfriend Bargain. I always want to call it Bargain Boyfriend, but I feel like it rolls off the tongue better, but it doesn't sound good that you would want to bargain boyfriend, but the Boyfriend Bargain makes more sense. I'm loving this book, and I really hope it doesn't take a dark turn where I'm not gonna like it, because that's what happened with Step Beast. But no, right now this is like solidly sitting at a 5-star read for me. I love the banter. The banter is chef's kiss. The sex scenes are like really hot. What's interesting about this one is that it's for the fake dating trope, and they have sex first before they decide to do this fake dating thing. So usually with that trope, it's the opposite. It's like they don't go all the way, so to speak, before they start fake dating, and everything's like building to that. So I was like a little worried that because they had sex really early on before they discussed this whole bargain thing, that it would lose the tension of their relationship, but that was not the case, and I'm so happy. Like, they've had sex now like 3 times. I also like this because also I realize that I love the chase and I love tension in the relationship, so like sometimes I get bored when they get together, so I like constant conflict within the relationship so that it like keeps me interested. And what happens with this one is that the girl shuts down every time that they have sex, and she gets really closed off and she gets really dismissive, and he's just like wants to cuddle her and she's like no. And like I love that. Super into the relationship and like their dynamic. And I also really like the girl because she has like plethora of daddy issues, and I can just relate to that. So there's several times where she thinks about something and I'm like, yeah, I've definitely thought that before too, girl. We feel each other. I just really like both the characters. So far 5 out of star reads. Let's hope this doesn't crash and burn for me. So like the hockey romances, I love Elle Kennedy's books. I love the Off-Campus series. I like love 2 of those books out of that 4-book series. And I've loved both books with the Briar U series, the chase and the risk. And the risk was also a fake dating trope, and it's kind of like a similar situation like for both these books, and I really liked that because like the girl is using him to get ahead in her own life, if that makes sense, career-wise. So I like that. If this book works out and I don't get mad about something that happens, this one might be my favorite hockey romance. I think it's gonna beat Elle Kennedy. So I think tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to finish that, and then I'm gonna start an audiobook because I'm trying to alternate them, because every round it's like I overdose on audiobooks and I get a permanent headache for a full 7 days. I need to clean tomorrow because I did not clean, I did nothing. Well, this morning I'm trying to justify it with the fact that this morning I did wake up early and I went to both my banks, and I went to Walgreens, and I did something else in a drive-through. I got Panera. So I've done things that I needed to get done. Tomorrow I do need to clean. I do need to go to the grocery store to get food for the week. There's just a lot of things I need to do. I still have my Christmas tree up. I need to take my Christmas tree down. I have all the bags, all the presents that I got for Christmas, everything. I haven't unpacked for my parents' house yet. My hallway is looking pretty crowded because I just have bag after bag after bag lined up down the hall because I need to put stuff away. It's like 4 days into 2020 and I'm already a mess, so staying on brand. So day 2 of Smutathon. We're nearing the end of the night here. And you know, things didn't go exactly as planned today. I did read a little bit this morning in Boyfriend Bargain. It's still going all smoothly. I'm just really hoping this book doesn't choke at the end and ruin the execution. But then I started watching Spinning Out on Netflix, which is a new competitive ice skating show, a drama, but it's like, okay, first I already finished it. So I watched all goddamn 10 episodes today. Guys, it was so good. So like the romance in it is very good too. I don't want to say it's like enemies to lovers, but it's definitely people who like don't really like each other are now going to be paired together as pairs figure skaters. They've had history in the past and now they're going to be like forced to be together, and they're just kind of like, ugh, the chemistry is really good. I honestly haven't felt this way about a Netflix show since The Society, which is a show I also love, but Spinning Out has now taken the #1 spot for my favorite Netflix shows. That's what I did for 10 hours. And I don't regret it because I did take my Christmas tree down during one of the episodes, so I still did things today. So the reading didn't go as planned today, but I have no regrets of binging that show. That was such a great show. I highly recommend it. Not sure if I've worn this shirt yet in the vlog, but it's a different day. So finished Priest earlier today, listening to it. It lived up to the hype and I rated it 4 stars. It was really, really dirty. That was the shit I wanted injected in my veins. Simone has now turned a new leaf, turned around for me, because one of like my most hated romance books is one of her books. I read American Princess or something like that and I hated it. Like oh man, I hated that book. Still reading The Boyfriend Bargain, but that's just because I haven't read an ebook. I've been like the audiobook, especially because like now it's like a work week. So now I've completely deviated from my TBR. I started Tormentor Mind by Zaires. This is a dark romance, and that's what I needed. Like after I finished Priest, I was like, you know what? I need a dark romance where the happily ever after isn't always guaranteed. Riley and I were talking to each other today about this, and I know I said this earlier, maybe in my last clip, how I'm like, sometimes I lose interest after the chase is over, and we were talking about that, like, I'm like, that's why I needed to switch to dark romance. Because the issues sometimes in dark romance are a lot bigger than the miscommunication being the cause that they break up 25% before the book is over and they have to make up. I'm not discounting that at all. I mean, I love my contemporary stuff too, but I just needed to switch because I was getting bored in a sense right now. So I'm just gonna be probably reading dark romance maybe for the rest of the readathon or most of it. So I might have to reevaluate my TBR a little bit, because just like I just want to read some really dark shit right now with some crazy ass sex. So I'm reading Tormentor Mind by Zaires. I read her alien smut book before I publicly talked about reading alien smut on my channel. I read, it might have been called Close Encounters. I read that a couple years ago. So this one is about a Russian hitman, so to speak. The book opens with an attack on this little town somewhere outside of Moscow. He's Russian special forces. His wife and his toddler son are killed. He goes on this mission of hunting down everybody that was involved with that like massacre. One of those people that is involved with that massacre is this young woman, Sarah's her husband, because her husband is CIA. When he was trying to locate the husband, he kind of like, not really kidnapped her, but kind of like accosted her at her house, and he's like, "Where's your husband?" And what he didn't know was that her husband was in a car crash a year and a half before, and he's been in like a coma on life support for like the past year and a half. Basically, he kind of becomes obsessed with her. It's not as dark as I wanted it to be, but I'm interested to keep reading because usually the suspense and the mystery of dark romances really like keeps me engaged. Right now, he's like kind of like stalking her, which I'm into. And then after that, the next book that I'm gonna read is my surefire dark romance author that never lets me down when it comes to fucked up shit, and that's K Webster. So I'm gonna be reading her book Malo, which is the bad in Spanish. And this one has to do with like the Mexican cartel. It might be his maid. Like she's in the household and she's like biding her time before she like fucks stuff up. So I'm thinking, could I use that as my workplace romance? This is the last night of Smutathon, and I'm currently really trying to finish 2 books. I did finish Tormentor Mine. Have I talked about that? Sometimes I get confused what I actually said on Twitter and what I said here. Tormentor Mine wasn't dark enough, and I just wanted a lot more out of it. I rated it a 2-star. I just wanted it to be a lot darker. I wanted the murder. I wanted more of the questionable antics between characters. So I started listening to Malo. It's about like the kingpin of a Mexican cartel and a CIA agent who's been his maid for the past 4 years, but she's currently collecting intelligence. I'm about halfway through this one. There's just like a little too much insta love for me. Like there was no resistance between her and her mission that she's been committed to for the past 4 years. And then when they finally like have sex, she's like, I'm in love with him. Screw the CIA. I think I have like less than an hour left to read. I'll probably be rating it 2 or 3. Have I even mentioned that I finished Boyfriend Bargain? That was a 5-star book for me. Holy crap. I love that book. It is now my favorite hockey romance. I can't recommend it enough. You'll be seeing this book a lot more on my channel because I will always be recommending it. As I said, I diverted from my TBR because I wanted to read some darker stuff. I also realized that I should probably read some alien smut because is that my brand now on BookTube? I feel like it might be. I decided to read The Lost Commander by K Webster and Nicole Blanchard. I only have 1 minute left on my SD card and I need more than a minute to talk about this, so hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I don't know what it is about alien smut that I like. There are some things that I really like about alien tropes. I really like a translation trope where they don't speak the same language yet and they have to like communicate with each other by anything else in the means of not talking. I think I can trace that back to Transcendence by Shay Savage, which isn't an alien smut book, but it is a caveman time travel romance where they don't speak the same language. Like they just like, so I love that whole trope. I love it. Ice Planet Barbarians has that trope too where they can't usually communicate with each other, at least in the beginning of the series. This one they are able to communicate, and that's because the aliens have like this implant where they can register languages in their nearby sphere. So these ones are big, white, like really like no pigment at all on their skin, whiter than me. They have double fangs on their teeth, which is interesting. I think something's up with their ears because every time like when they're like getting defensive about something, their ears like flap back or something on their head, so it feels very like animalistic in that sense. What else? I think their eyes are also like they kind of have that reptilian eyes where it's like that, you know what I'm talking about? That was really weird. So okay, so the setup of the story is that they're on a dying planet. There's only 10 of them left, 10 guys, and their whole species was wiped out by like this virus. So there are the 10 left. There's no females, of course. They're having like difficulty trying to survive. The scene opens with like the commander, Brecken. He is like, no, we're not going to go outside of like our facility to try to like plant flowers or plant plants so that we can survive. They need to like figure out like how to get food and shit. So 2 of the guys were up in like circling in their spaceship trying to like find other beings, and they came across this like cargo hold with hundreds and hundreds of humans in cryosleep. Is that what it's called? Cryosleep? That sounds like I'm saying it wrong, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They only had time to pull off 5 female tubes into their spaceship and bring them back down. So then when the 5 females come back, it's like, you know, fuck that mission of us trying to find how we're going to survive food-wise, because now our most important issue is how are we going to, you know, continue on with our species. Are these females compatible for us to have sex with, basically? You know how alien smut goes. That's like their only concern is what are they gonna do about having children, which 100% cannot relate. They find out they are compatible, and this is like the one part I didn't like about it, but like I was kind of expecting some like weird shit because it is K Webster. Trigger warning for miscarriages. So they try to impregnate the women through like basically in vitro. They don't want to wake them up because they don't want them to get sick and die. Main girl character Arya, she wakes up because she's having a miscarriage. That's really deep, and I was not expecting that. She doesn't want to go back to sleep because they're thinking about putting her back to sleep and trying again. The commander, Brecken, he's like, well, maybe I should just keep this one for myself. I think I like kind of like the weird kinks that happen in alien smut. That's why I'm interested in them. So I'm like, what's gonna go on with sex with this alien that's gonna trip me up? Because in Ice Planet Barbarians, it was the spur. And if you guys have read Ice Planet Barbarians, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What is gonna be like the spur of this series? And it's the Toxia. After he has sex and he releases his stuff, she becomes paralyzed for like a couple hours and she can't move. And like, I was like, what? She was so angry about it, and I was like, girl, I'd be angry about that too. So I think there's like 5 or 6 books in the series. So will I be continuing it? Probably. It's like the same setup as Ice Planet Barbarians, where it's like there's too many males, not enough females. What's gonna happen? How are they gonna get all hooking up together? It's so surprising that I like alien smut, because like I said before, with alien smut, like their priority is usually to like have kids, and I hate pregnancy, unplanned, planned in books mostly at all. I don't like it. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm gonna try to, we'll finish up Malo and The Last Commander before Smutathon is over, and then I would have read 7 books, I think. I think that's 7 books. I'm satisfied with that. I wish I would have read more, but like, I'm still kind of like in a reading slump. I've just been in such a long reading slump. It's just, my whole life is like falling apart, so like, nothing gives me joy. That's depressing. So Smutathon ended last night, and I thought I would do a quick little wrap up of what I read and what I finished last night. I did finish Malo by K Webster. I think I want to rate it a 2. Like, I read a lot of K Webster's books, and this was definitely my least favorite. Everything was there. You had the spies, you had the cartel, you had tension and spying and all that, and then to just completely ruin the execution is just sad. But then I ended it on a pretty good note, because the alien smut book ended up kind of being a 3.5, 4 stars. If I had to rate it, it's really hard for me to rate alien smut books, because it's like, are they really that good? I don't know, but like when I'm reading it and I'm in the moment, I think they're good. I downloaded the 2nd book already, so I'm probably going to be reading the rest of the series that's available. If you enjoyed the Ice Planet Barbarian series, I really highly recommend this book or this series, because it's pretty much set up the same way. So if you're looking for more books that are like Ice Planet Barbarians, this one has been the best alternate so far that I've read out of all of my alien smut books. So I'm really happy with how Smutathon turned out for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know there was like not that much b-roll. There was no b-roll, actually. I kind of enjoyed giving my thoughts about the romance books as I'm reading them, because I don't really do that a whole lot. So if you guys liked this kind of format, maybe I'll do more where I just read some romance and then I'll post my thoughts about them. That's it for me. If you guys participated in Smutathon, what was your favorite book that you read? I would really love to know. And thank you everybody who has been participating in Smutathon. You guys make the weeks so much fun during the Smutathon. Riley and I really appreciate it, and I always find new books to add to my TBR, which is always a plus. If you guys don't know, my name is Lainey, and I make videos about books, writing, planning, and if you guys really like what you see, please subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys all very soon. Bye!